Welcome to another episode
Next episode
of the Thought Exchange Cafe.
Greetings and welcome to another special live coming to you from the Thought Exchange Cafe podcast, where we bring you educational, motivational, and inspirational content, as well as information that may help you to eliminate some of your fears. Not all of them, but some of them. Some of them you have to face on your own. Tonight is a special episode, and this is episode 1 of 4. And tonight's episode is titled Our Boston Experience. To my left, I have with me to my right, I have Mr. Jenkins from Dorchester, Massachusetts. To my left, I have with me Papa Strickland, and I call him Papa Strickland because he's the Papa. And tonight, we're just going to talk a little bit about our Boston experiences. We're going to talk about some of the challenges that we face being here in Boston. And we're going to start out with Mr. Strickland. Mr. Strickland, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm originally from Arkansas. I was born in 1958 on a plantation. The name of it was Phillip County Plantation. And back in 1971, my mother came to us and said to us that we are going to move to Boston. You know, me being like maybe 12 years old. And I said to myself, well, we're moving to Boston. Me being a person that's from down south, when she said Boston, I said, oh, it's like, where's Boston? Like, where's Boston at? So we get here on a Greyhound bus in 1972. So the first place we moved to was 77 Maple Street. And I had never experienced a city. I never lived in the city. I'm from in the South. So when I got here, I was looking around and I was like, what? It was a brand new environment for me. The buildings were connected. Everybody lived in the same building. And I'm like saying to myself, this is a whole different new experience for me. And so after that, we got here in July of 1972, if I remember correctly. And that August 12th, the following month, I turned 13. So when I got here, I went to the William Lloyd Garrison Middle School. And from there, I went to the Oliver Wendell Holmes, from the sixth grade to the 7th grade to the 8th grade. So after the 8th grade, I went to the Oliver Wendell Holmes, like I said. And so when I got there at the Oliver Wendell Holmes, and the environment in the school at the Oliver Wendell Holmes was more like nobody cared about education. And there was hardly any books in that school. We used to have to share books. It was like 10 books to 25 kids, right? And so we used to have to share the books, 10 books with 25 kids. You understand what I'm saying? And I used to say, well, why does this school only have 10 books for 25 Black kids? And if you didn't have a book when school started, right, they had the books on the desk. It was only 10, it's 25 kids in the classroom. And the teacher would go, hey, whoever wants a book, come and get one. It was only 10. And so whoever rushed up there and got the first book, got the book. And then anybody who wouldn't get up there to get the book, didn't get a book. So, make a long story short. If you were sitting in class, the kids that had the books, that got them before we can get them to the desk in front, they would get the books and we'd be sitting there and the teacher would go doing the lesson and telling you this and that and this and that and this and that, right? And the kids without the books would go, wow, you take notes, but you didn't have a book. And they'd send you home and say, do your homework tonight. And only 10 kids had the books. And then you had to say, pick somebody if they whether they like you or not, right? It was like, who could I ask to share a book with? You know, he said, can you share your book with me? They said, no, depending on whether you like you or not. That's the way it was. Okay, so some kids got somebody to pair up with one book, and they go over their house and study with them. But the ones who didn't have no books, and the kids would choose who they liked in the classroom and who they didn't like, and the ones that didn't like would go home without the books. And we had to go home with no books, period, because there weren't enough books for us. That's one of the party experiences I had in Boston when I first got here.
Is it fair to say that even then, at that particular time, you still had a hard time of grasping the lesson because you had nothing to reference back to?
I had no reference back to because I had no voice. I was young. So if you're a young person, you can't go to the teacher and say, where the rest of the books at, because I'm going home without a book. And the 10 kids that have them, there's 15 kids that don't have the book. So you're like high and dry. So I lost a lot of education back then due to the lack of books. I barely made it to ninth grade. You know, I had no books, but I did my best for what I knew and what I was looking at the chalkboard, what the teacher was putting up there, but I had no book. You understand what I'm saying? So what I did, I said to myself, you know what, the best thing I could do is go home and I wrote down what they taught me on the board, but I had no book. So I had to put things together myself and come up with answers that I didn't even know because I didn't have a book. You understand what I'm saying? And I barely made it through school, you know, by the skin of my teeth. But I did manage to make it to high school. And I was glad to get there because the grades that I was getting at the Oliver Wendell Homes were terrible because I had no book. No book. But I made it only on the strength of just what they wrote on the board. But I didn't have the book. Imagine that. Imagine that. They write in on the board, you don't have no book, and they said, go home and do your homework. I said, how am I going to do my homework and I don't have the book?
You had nothing to reference back to.
No.
And the Oliver Wendell Holmes School is right here in our city.
Yes. It's on School Street in Dorchester.
Yes.
And, and the thing was, back then, right, there was a whole lot of us, right, in school. And every day after school, there was a fight. Like, it was like a big thing. This person, that person's fighting today. And I'm like, what are they fighting for? You know, it's like a big thing back then, like fight after school. And I'm like saying to myself, why are they fighting? Because where I'm from, Arkansas, they didn't play that. If you outside fighting, guess what's going to happen? You're going to the principal's office. They didn't allow it. They didn't allow fighting. And another thing I'll never forget, when I first came to Boston, went to the William Lloyd Garrison, and I was from down south. I had an accent, you know, a southern accent, real bad. And when I walked into class and I started talking to some of the kids, and they asked me, where are you from? And I said, I'm from Arkansas. And they said, you got to be from somewhere because you don't talk like us. And another thing was what was very disrespectful, right? Like, I was sitting in the classroom, fresh out of Arkansas now, and they was spit balls in the back of my neck. Now, down south, they didn't allow that. They didn't allow it because you did something like that sitting in class down there, you head to the principal's office, period.
Mm.
And you would get something on your hand that'll make your hand look like an apple after the principal was finished with you. You're laughing, I'm telling you the truth, brother. and they said, "You don't want to go to Mr. Reynolds' office." Mr. Reynolds, you don't want to go there. He had a rat tan. I don't know if you know what a rat tan is.
Yeah, rat tan.
No.
He had a
I
rat
do.
tan.
I remember.
You know, rat tan. It's the, ever seen a barber's chair? And it had the thing that is, the sharpening of the razor. He had one in his office. If you went in now, you didn't want to go. Because Mr. Reynolds he would say, you didn't do your math work last night. You didn't do it 3 times. And the 3 times, you're out. And I said, oh, I got to go to Mr. Reynolds' office. Mr. Reynolds tore that hand up. And then after that, you would do your homework on time every time you're supposed to do it.
You know, on one of the episodes I talked about, I discussed a little bit about those old school ways, right? And I know for myself, if it wasn't for the old school ways that my mom instilled in me, I may not be sitting here today because of some poor decisions and some bad choices. Continue to elaborate on that a little bit.
Okay, I'm going to give you another example. Okay, when I first started going to the William Lloyd Garrison School, I was fresh out of Arkansas, remember? So I sit in the class, and one thing that amazed me is the kids were calling each other, yes, sir, and no, sir. And I'm sitting in the class going, where I'm from, the only people you call yes, sir, and no, sir was the teacher, your grandmother, or grown folks. And these kids were sitting in class saying yes, sir, and no, sir. It kind of screwed me up. I'm like, why they calling each other yes, sir, and no, sir, like they grown already? It kind of it didn't mess my head up. I was like, this place is backwards. Kids are not supposed to say yes, sir, and no, sir to each other. You're not grown yet. See where I'm going with this? And it kind of messed me up. It was like a awakening to me, like I'm in a totally different place. Because where I'm from, the only people call yes, sir, and no, sir is in school. Principal, teacher, your parents, the grown-ups. And these kids were sitting in class saying yes, sir, and no, sir to each other. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like I said, it was kind of something crazy to me. But my wife told me, she said to me, I told my wife, she said, no, that's it. I said, when I got here, you guys were saying it, yes, sir, and no, sir to each other. And I said, where I'm from, we only call grown-ups, principals, teachers, staff, and adults. And you know what my wife said to me? Oh, that was a slang back then. I'm like, what's up, what? Calling each other, yes, sir, no, sir. You ain't no grown yet. I'm going to leave that alone right now. And let's go on with this conversation.
From what we, the discussions that we had before, going on air, you talked a little bit about your, being in the military.
Oh,
but
yes.
also, what were some of the challenges you faced as a man of color here in Boston?
As a man of color here in Boston, I got a perfect example. When in 1973, Judge William Arthur Garrity desegregated the schools in Boston, right? And my mother's, we was living in Dorchester then. And my mother said, this judge done desegregated the school. Y'all got to go to the white schools. So we're like, uh-oh, you're young. You go, I'm scared to death because you know what happens. You get shipped to white schools. But we were all afraid of going to high school with the white kids, okay? We're scared to death. But we all got on the buses and stuff on the day we were supposed to go to school in the white schools. And it was kind of like a horrifying experience to me because you've seen on TV what happened in the 60s when they desegregated schools in the 60s with the black people had to go through to go up in the school. They had to have the police protection for a couple of kids to go up in the white schools down south. So I thought about that, and I said to myself, well, I hope they don't be trying to kill us going up in these schools because of desegregation. So here's what happened. Make a long story short, excuse me. They shipped us to Rosendale High, right? Rosendale High, which is right down the street. So we all got on the bus, you know, us black, we was all black kids. We got on the bus with like 5 buses. So we all got together, and the women, the young ladies was afraid. They was like, oh my God, gotta go to this school. We don't know what's gonna happen. And we got to Rosendale High. So what really made me see true racism was when the buses were pulling in. I thought it was going to be the kids that were, you know, shouting, niggas go home. No, it wasn't. It was the parents. The parents were like 100 of them, Boston police, holding them back. And they was like, niggas go home, niggas go home. And we was on the bus going like, we are home. What are you talking about? Imagine this. You're on the bus, whole lot of white people, police on the back, and they're shouting, niggas go home, niggas go home. And then they started throwing bricks at the bus and busting out the windows and stuff. The ones in the back of us, though, we was the lead bus. And we're looking back like, why are these people throwing bricks and what's wrong with them? What's wrong with these people? Telling us to go home. We are home. We are home. We live in Massachusetts too, right? Right? So
Yeah.
we're home. So it took a few of us. We was the first bus. It was like about 20, 19 young women. And it was like 10, maybe 12 young black men. So we were sitting on the bus. It was like, oh, we were scared too. But a friend of mine, never forget him, his name was Wayne Jackson. He said, listen, let's not be afraid. Who wants to go out here and get off the bus and walk up into Rosendale High? So one guy stood up, another guy stood up, I stood up, another guy stood up, all the guys stood up, right? And we was like, yeah, we're going out here, we're going up in this school. He said, yeah, don't be scared. We told the young ladies, just sit there. We're gonna go out here. We ain't scared, which we were. We were. All them people out there. And I'll never forget it. And there was like 15 white kids standing in front of the door to try to stop us from coming in, right? So we said to ourselves, listen, we're gonna walk up these stairs. Here's what we did. We started walking slowly. The 15 white kids standing in front of the door, you know, like saying, y'all ain't coming up in here. And so we said, we're going to walk up slowly. Here's what we're going to do. This was the plan. Here's what we did. Okay, once we start walking slowly, then we're going to start running. And we started running up the stairs, running up the stairs like, huh? Like we was coming up there to do something. And they all scattered. They all scattered. We was putting them all up the stairs like, yeah. It was funny in a way because we were, you know, they were like standing like, y'all ain't coming up in here. You know, these are white kids everywhere. No, parents, I'll never forget this because we were scared though. Not gonna lie to you. We said, well, we're gonna act like we're not afraid. So we went up there and they all scattered and we was running all around the building, man. They was running scattering everywhere. It was like, and after about once we ran them all up the stairs and stuff, 5 minutes went by and the principal came out and said, hey, you guys stop doing that. And we was like, okay, we're fine. And about 3 minutes later, we went to our classes and we were sitting right next to him. And there was peace in the valley. Wow. True story, bro. We were sitting right next to him. We were scared to death and he didn't know. Okay, go on. I don't mean to talk that much stuff. That's a true story. Mm-hmm. We helped pave the way for desegregation in Boston because if we were cowards, we wouldn't. These kids now wouldn't be in the schools, going to school with white people. We are the ones who paved the way for them because we showed them that we weren't cowards. And we ended up on the David Susskind show in New York. David Susskind, listen, here's what happened after that. A newscast came to us and said, you guys been invited to the David Susskind show in New York. It was a show, a talk show on TV in New York. It's called David Susskind. And we would have, all of us were sitting up there and they're going, how did you guys feel about desegregation? We was like, hey, with no problem to us. We wasn't running, they was. True story.
You know,
true story.
We
paved the way.
Yeah, Papa Strickland,
for them to go to school.
You know, once again, this is a 4-part series.
Okay, I'm not.
And
I'm gonna just be quiet.
When when we come back, we're gonna have you continue with that story, but also we're gonna talk a little bit about your military background just as well too. When we come back,
okay.
Right now, I want to introduce Mr. Joel Jenkins from Dorchester, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his Boston experience.
Good evening, everyone. Well, as Miss Pops Strickland said, I also went to William Lloyd Garrison on Hutchins Street.
Yep.
I live right across the street from Hutchins Street,
really?
31 Hutchins Street. So,
yeah.
But it's 4 years, because you're 4 years older than I am.
Right.
So, yeah. I remember the busing. I wasn't actually bused because, like I said, I lived right across the street from the school. But yes, busing was terrible. But the thing about it is that in Boston, you had people who are politicians now that were against busing, that were the ones that were out there throwing the rocks, calling the names. Mm-hmm. I won't say any names, but they're politicians right now in Boston, councilmen too. So, but anyway, my experience in Boston wasn't always bad. It was great. Had a great childhood. Was from a middle-class family. We're the first ones in the family to buy a home. We moved from Roxbury, 31 Hutchins Street, to Mattapan, Elmont Street, right across the street from Elmont Park. And we were the first Black family. And the neighborhood was white Jewish. There was, as I said, there was a park across the street, and there was a playground. So my mother and father worked during the summer, and my aunt would take us to the park to play. And the mothers would take their kids off the swings and take them away from us. But as a kid, you didn't understand that until a grown-up explained it to you. But other than that, busing and everything else in the childhood of growing up in Boston was well to be expected. You had racism, you had South Boston. You really couldn't go in some parts of South Boston, Carson Beach. But as things progress, things got better. As things get better, and some things stay the same. But we as people know how to go forward and persevere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, Ms. Jenkins, you've had some experiences here in Boston, right? You've seen some things, you've been through some things. Just tell us some of the challenges that you had to overcome and how you overcame them challenges. Just being a young Black man growing up, right? Going through high school, working, and getting to where you are today.
Well, I started work when I was like 15 and a half. I went to school, got good grades. I went to the Solomon Lewinburg. I graduated highest ranking student of all of my class. And I was the first Black student in the whole school system that was valedictorian. And I also was awarded Science Award, a plaque, medal. And I didn't do what other kids did. I wasn't a follower, I was a leader. I always kept my schoolwork on point. I'd never got in trouble. I'm 64 years old and don't have a record. or anything. So it's like, it's a blessing. I just was a leader, and I just didn't do the crazy things other people were doing. Because to me, I didn't want to do that. I had other purpose and other higher things to do. And that's what I've accomplished and did. I wrote my book, Diary of an AIDS Survivor. I was diagnosed in 1988 of HIV. And when, years of drug addiction with crack, it advanced my situation with HIV. And in 1995, I went from 170 pounds to 77 pounds. I was in the hospital for months. My family thought I was going to die. But my doctor was a very good doctor, and he gave me the medications that were understudied, and here I am now. So blessed to God and blessed to my doctor for God for giving him the knowledge to help me and help other people also. It wasn't just me.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins, for being so transparent, but also thank you for sharing part of, and that's only part of your story. Your story is a lot more in depth. And once again, when we come back for part 2, we can go back into that. But folks, I'd like just to say thank you for tuning in for our Boston experience here on the Thought Exchange Cafe podcast. We will be back next Friday with part 2, where we're going to discuss some of the things that are happening globally within our other southern states to say, and we're going to say their names, some of their names. We may not be able to say all of them, but some of their names. So before we close out, I would like to just turn it back over to Mr. Strickland. Mr. Strickland, are there any closing words you would like to say until our next episode to the audience?
I'd like to say, living in Boston, be strong. Don't be led astray by anything that'll hold you down from being a positive and a contribution to society.
Thank you, Papa Strickland. Same question for you, Mr. Jenkins.
I say just be the best you can be. Don't let anything get you down, but things do get people down, but pick yourself up and go forward. Stay forward. Stay positive.
And with that, we look forward to seeing you on our next live next Friday here at the Thought Exchange Cafe podcast, where we bring you educational, motivational, and inspirational content, as well as information that may help you to eliminate some of your fears. So until we see you again, may God hold you, keep you, and stay safe.
You all did it.